My name is Avery Lane. The backyard in Kansas City buzzed with birthday music, fairy lights strung across the fence, and the smell of grilled burgers drifting everywhere. Mom Judith stood on the patio steps, glass-raised high voice cutting through the chatter like she owned the night. "Some kids make you proud every single day," she said, eyes locked on my brother Travis. "Others, you just wish you didn't have to see them at all." Laughter rippled. Travis grinned. Dad stayed quiet, same as always. I lifted my own glass, smiled right back. "Good news, Mom. Your wish just came true. I'm already gone, living in Charlotte now." The music kept playing, but the air shifted. Mom's smile froze. Travis coughed into his beer. I set my glass down, walked inside, and didn't look back. That was the last family party I ever attended. If your parent ever said something that cut deeper than they meant, or maybe exactly as they meant, drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happened next. I grew up in a red brick house on the outskirts of Kansas City, the kind with a driveway cracked from too many Midwest winters, and a garage that smelled like oil and old baseball gloves. Mom ran the place like a scoreboard. Every point went to Travis. He was the pitcher for the high school team, the one who got the new cleats before the season even started, the one whose games filled the calendar on the fridge. My 8th birthday fell on a Tuesday. I came home from school expecting something, maybe a cake from the grocery store, the cheap kind with plastic balloons on top. The kitchen counter was empty except for a note: "Travis has practice. Order pizza if you're hungry." I ate cereal, standing up, milk dripping onto the linoleum. Dad walked in later, tie loosened, and ruffled my hair without a word. That was his version of sorry. Travis's birthdays were different. The whole block showed up. Mom rented a bounce house one year, hired a guy to grill ribs the next. She'd stand at the gate in her sundress, waving people in, telling everyone how Travis struck out the side in the 7th inning. I'd sit on the porch steps counting cars, wondering if anyone noticed I was there. Mom never hid it. "Travis is going places," she'd say while folding his uniforms, the fabric soft from too many washes. "You need to support him." Support meant giving up my Saturday mornings to sit in the bleachers, meant handing over my allowance when his fundraiser jar came up short. I did it without complaining. Complaining got you nowhere in that house. Dad Harold worked downtown numbers and spreadsheets all day. He came home tired, kicked off his shoes by the door, and disappeared into the den with the TV. If Mom raised her voice about Travis needing new gear, he'd nod and sign the check. If I asked for $20 for a school trip, he'd glance up long enough to say, "Ask your mother." That was the end of it. The only person who saw me was Aunt Eileen, Dad's younger sister. She lived across town in a small apartment above a bakery, the kind where the smell of cinnamon rolls leaked through the floorboards. She started showing up on random Sundays, pulling into the driveway in her beat-up Honda trunk full of groceries she didn't need to buy. Mom would frown, but let her in. Eileen waited until Mom was in the shower or out running errands. Then she'd slip an envelope into my backpack, $50 sometimes, 100 folded tight with a rubber band. For books, she'd whisper, tapping the side of her nose like it was our secret code. Or, "Whatever you need." I used the first one to buy a library card at the community center, the kind that let me check out programming books without late fees. One afternoon, Travis had a tournament in St. Louis. The house emptied out, Mom packing coolers, Dad loading bats into the trunk. I stayed behind, claiming a stomachache. As soon as the minivan pulled away, Eileen knocked on the back door. She didn't ask questions. She just handed me a bus pass and said, "There's a coding club at the tech center downtown. Meets Thursdays. You should go." I went. The room smelled like burnt coffee and dry erase markers. Kids my age hunched over laptops, fingers flying across keys. The instructor, a guy with a ponytail and a faded NASA shirt, showed me how to write my first line of code. It printed "Hello Avery" on the screen, and something clicked like a door I didn't know was locked, finally swung open. Mom found out months later. I'd left a printout on the kitchen table, some stupid assignment about loops and variables. She held it between two fingers like it might bite her. "This is what you're wasting time on?" she asked. Travis needed new catcher's gear. The old stuff was cracked. She crumpled the paper and tossed it in the trash. I fished it out after she went to bed, smoothed the wrinkles, and taped it inside my math notebook. Dad saw the whole thing. He was pouring coffee steam rising between us. Our eyes met for half a second. He looked away. First took his mug and closed the den door. That was Harold always choosing the path with the least noise. Aunt Eileen kept the envelopes coming. She never asked for thank yous. Once she drove me to the electronic surplus store on the edge of town, the one with bins of dusty circuit boards and tangled wires. I spent $40 on a broken laptop someone had dumped. She waited in the car engine running radio low. When I came out clutching the thing like treasure, she just smiled and said, "Build something." I did. In the basement storage room, really just a closet with a bare bulb and a folding table, I took it apart screw by screw. The screen was cracked, the battery dead, but the motherboard lit up when I jumpered it to an old power supply. That was the first machine I ever fixed. I named it nothing. Names felt like promises I couldn't keep. Travis made varsity junior year. The local paper ran a photo him on the mound glove raised Mom beaming in the background. They framed it and hung it in the hallway right above the spot where my kindergarten art project used to be. I walked past it every day on my way to the bus stop, backpack heavy with library books and Eileen's latest envelope. Mom threw a party when Travis signed with a scout. Streamers, balloons, a sheet cake that said "Future Pro" in blue icing. I ate a corner piece in the kitchen alone while the living room roared with laughter. Aunt Eileen found me there, leaned against the counter, and slipped another envelope into my pocket. "Keep going," she said. Her voice was steady, like she already knew the ending. The storage room under the basement stairs became my hideout, a narrow space stacked with holiday boxes and Dad's old golf clubs. I dragged in a card table from the garage, set up a gooseneck lamp I found at a yard sale for $2, and claimed the corner as mine. The bulb buzzed faintly, casting long shadows over concrete walls that smelled like damp cardboard and forgotten summers. I started with library books, thick ones on C++, and Python pages dog-eared from too many hands. The downtown branch had a section in the back where the air conditioning hummed loud enough to drown out the world. I'd check out 3 at a time, stuff them in my backpack, and bike home before Mom noticed I was gone. Reading code felt like cracking a secret language, each line a puzzle that made sense only if you stared long enough. The first laptop came from Aunt Eileen's envelope money. I bought it off a guy on Craigslist who met me in a parking lot behind a gas station. The screen flickered, the keyboard missed the letter J, but it booted to a command prompt. I carried it down the stairs like contraband, set it on the table, and spent nights prying open the case with a butter knife. Dust coated my fingers as I cleaned the fan, replaced a swollen battery with one scavenged from a dead remote control. When it finally hummed to life without crashing, I sat back and stared at the glowing cursor, heart pounding harder than any baseball game upstairs. Mom discovered the setup one Saturday morning. She'd come down for Christmas ornaments, flipped on the light, and froze in the doorway. "What is all this junk?" she snapped, kicking a loose power cord across the floor. Extension cables snaked everywhere, connected to a surge protector I'd plugged into the dryer outlet. She picked up a circuit board I'd salvaged from an old printer. "This is Rack Roy. Travis needs the basement for his weight bench." I didn't argue. I unplugged everything, coiled the cables, and waited until she stomped back upstairs. Then I moved the table deeper into the corner behind a stack of paint cans where the light barely reached. The next day, I ran to the hardware store during lunch period, used my cafeteria money, and bought a longer Ethernet cable. I drilled a tiny hole through the floor joist, fed the cable up to the living room router when no one was home. Dial-up was dead. This was my lifeline. School computers were locked down, but the library had public terminals with internet. I'd log in after hours, download tutorials on server setup, burn them to CDs using the lab's ancient burner. Back in the storage room, I installed Linux on the laptop, Ubuntu, because the forums said it was free and forgiving. Errors flashed red, but I learned to read them like warning labels. Reboot, tweak, repeat. One winter break, Travis was away at a baseball camp in Florida. The house stayed quiet for a week. I used the time to scavenge more parts. A neighbor tossed an old desktop tower during bulk trash pickup. I hauled it home under cover of darkness, wheels squeaking on the sidewalk. Inside were 2 hard drives, a dusty motherboard, and a power supply that sparked when I tested it. I stripped what worked soldered jumper wires with a borrowed iron from shop class and built a second machine. It ran hot fans whining like cicadas, but it stayed online. I connected the 2 computers with a crossover cable, set up a local network. The library books called it a cluster, nothing fancy, just enough to run simulations I'd coded for fun. One program predicted rain chances based on barometric data I pulled from a cheap sensor hooked to the window. Another sorted Travis's batting stats from newspaper clippings I scanned at the copy shop. Useless to anyone else, but it proved the setup worked. Mom caught me again during spring cleaning. She yanked open the door, arms full of garbage bags. "You're turning my house into a landfill," she said, eyeing the tower fans and tangled wires. She grabbed a box of floppy disks and shook it. "This is why you'll never amount to anything. Travis is out there training with pros and you're playing with trash." I waited until she left, then rebuilt everything exactly as it was. The word Rockroy echoed, but I pushed it down. That night, I ordered a 3rd hard drive online, used Eileen's latest envelope, and configured RAID for redundancy. The machines talked to each other, now sharing load, backing up data. I named the network Nothing. Labels invited questions. By sophomore year, the storage room had a routine. I'd slip downstairs after dinner, headphones on to block the TV upstairs, and code until the bulb flickered out. Forums became my classmates' users, with handles like Kernel Panic and Bite Me, who answered questions at 2 a.m. I contributed fixes, earned reputation points, learned to debug crashes that froze the whole system. The first real server took shape from 4 discarded towers. I aligned them on a metal shelf I'd bolted to the wall, connected with switches bought at a flea market. Cooling came from box fans zip-tied to the frame. It hummed constantly, a low growl that vibrated through the floor. I hosted a simple website, nothing public, just a page that displayed uptime stats. Seeing 99.9% after a month felt better than any report card. Mom never came down again. She'd mutter about the electric bill, but Dad paid it without comment. The machines kept growing, one salvage at a time, until the corner looked like a mini data center. I knew every fan curve, every loose screw. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. An envelope from UNC Charlotte arrived one fall afternoon, thick cream paper with the university seal embossed in gold. I found it on the kitchen counter, half buried under Travis's scouting letters and Mom's coupon circulars. My name was typed in bold across the front. I slid a butter knife under the flap, heart racing as I pulled out the acceptance packet. Full ride, scholarship, tuition, room board, even a stipend for books. Computer science program, top ranked in the state. I waited until dinner to bring it up. The table was set with meatloaf and instant mashed potatoes, steam fogging the windows. Dad sliced his portion methodically. Travis scrolled his phone, thumbs flying. Mom passed the gravy boat. I cleared my throat. I got into UNC Charlotte, full scholarship. Silence dropped like a curtain. Travis looked up, first eyebrows raised. Dad kept chewing. Mom set the boat down hard enough to slosh gravy onto the tablecloth. "Charlotte," she repeated, voice sharp. "That's clear across the country." "No." I pushed the letter across the table. "It's 900 miles, Mom. Not the moon. The program starts in January." She didn't touch the paper. "You're not going. Travis has showcases coming up, college coaches flying in. He needs you here to run errands, keep the schedule straight." She turned to Dad. "Harold, tell her." Dad wiped his mouth with a napkin. "It's a long way," he said, eyes on his plate. That was all. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. This is my future, not his support staff. Mom leaned forward. Your future is helping family. Travis gets drafted, we all benefit. You stay take classes at the community college if you're so smart. End of discussion. I stood up, chair scraping loud against the tile. It's not your decision. I grabbed the letter and headed for the stairs. Mom called after me about ingratitude, but I didn't stop. Up in my room, I spread the documents across the bed. Orientation dates, housing forms, a map of campus with the engineering building circled in red. I filled out everything online that night using the family desktop while Travis showered. The acceptance portal blinked green, confirmed. The next weeks turned tense. Mom ignored the packed boxes I started stacking in the hallway. She scheduled Travis's physical therapy appointments during my shifts at the grocery store, forcing me to swap with coworkers. Dad drove me to the DMV for a state ID update without comment, but refused to co-sign the dorm contract. Ask your mother, he said again. Aunt Eileen showed up unannounced one evening, pulling me aside in the garage. I heard she whispered, pressing a debit card into my hand. 500 loaded. For the flight, whatever else. Her eyes were steady. You're doing this. I booked the ticket online, Kansas City to Charlotte, one-way red-eye departure. I printed the boarding pass at the library, folded it small, and tucked it inside my calculus textbook. The night before leaving, Mom cornered me in the laundry room. You walk out that door, you're on your own. No coming back for holidays. No money for emergencies. She folded Travis's jerseys with sharp snaps. Think hard. I met her gaze. I have. Departure day dawned gray and cold. I hauled my duffel and a backpack to the curb at 4 a.m., breath fogging in the porch light. No one stirred inside. I'd called a rideshare, $20 from Eileen's card. The driver loaded my bags while I stared at the dark windows. Headlights swept the driveway. Aunt Eileen's Honda rolled up, engine rumbling. She climbed out in her coat hair in a messy bun. Couldn't let you go alone, she said, hugging me tight. We drove to the airport in silence, radio playing low classics. She parked at departures, popped the trunk. Text when you land. Check-in was smooth, scholarship kids got priority. I waved through security, Eileen standing on the other side of the glass until I disappeared down the concourse. The plane taxied out as the sun rose pink over the runways. I pressed my forehead to the window, watching Kansas City shrink below. Mom texted once during the flight. Travis has a scout dinner tonight. Don't forget to call. I deleted it. The seatbelt sign dinged off. I pulled out the campus map, traced the route from the airport shuttle to my dorm. 900 miles, a new zip code, my own key. Aunt Eileen's last message buzzed as we landed. Proud of you, kid. Build something big. I saved it, powered off the phone, and stepped into the terminal. Charlotte smelled like jet fuel and possibility. The ride share to campus took 40 minutes. I checked into the dorm, plastic keycard in hand, room 312 empty, except for 2 beds and a desk by the window. I unpacked the laptop first, the one I'd rebuilt a dozen times, plugged it in, and watched the familiar boot screen glow. No more hiding in storage rooms. This was mine. Orientation started the next morning. I walked across the quad in new sneakers, scholarship hoodie zipped against the southern chill. No one knew my last name here. No one expected me to carry water bottles for tryouts. Just code classes and a clean slate. Charlotte arrived without snow that winter, just gray skies and a damp chill that seeped through my hoodie during morning lectures. The scholarship stipend covered tuition but left little for food after rent. I picked up shifts at a diner off campus, greasy spoons, endless coffee refills, tips in crumpled ones. The manager scheduled me for doubles on weekends, plates clattering from open to close. Nights belonged to the warehouse on the industrial edge of town. I stocked shelves for a medical supply distributor, scanning barcodes under fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry bees. The pay was better, cash under the table for overtime. I'd clock in at 10, load boxes of syringes and bandages until the forklift horns faded around dawn. Sleep came in snatches between classes, head nodding over textbooks in the library cubicles. One Thursday shift ran late. A rush order for ventilators hospitals scrambling ahead of flu season. The supervisor barked for faster stacking. I operated the electric pallet jack, maneuvering pallets down narrow aisles stacked high with crates. My eyes burned from lack of rest, but the clock showed triple time. I reversed too quick around a corner wheel, catching a loose strap. The jack tipped a tower of boxes, shifting toward me. I jumped clear, but my foot slipped on spilled packing peanuts. The pallet crashed, metal edge slamming my ankle. Pain shot up my leg like fire. I hit the concrete, breath knocked out, alarms blaring from the impact sensor. Workers shouted, "Someone killed the power." Logan appeared first, a tall guy from my algorithms class, moonlighting the same shift. He'd seen the whole thing from the loading dock. "Don't move," he ordered, kneeling beside me. He yanked off his belt, wrapped it tight above the swelling as a tourniquet. "Elevate it." He propped my leg on a flattened box, dialed 911 on his flip phone. The warehouse manager hovered, muttering about incident reports. Paramedics arrived within minutes, Charlotte's response times sharp. They splinted the ankle, loaded me onto a stretcher. Logan rode in the ambulance, holding my backpack. "You're not paying for this," he said when I protested the bill. "Workers' comp covers it." At the ER, x-rays showed a clean fracture, no surgery, just a boot and crutches. The doctor prescribed rest I couldn't afford. Logan drove me back to the dorm in his rusty Civic, hazard lights blinking. "You need help with notes?" He stated, no question. He started showing up after his shift's laptop balanced on his knees, sharing code snippets from lecture. We debugged assignments together, trading energy drinks for concentration. The warehouse fired me the next week, policy after injuries. The diner cut hours too, claiming slow season. Rent loomed. I hobbled to the financial aid office, begged for emergency funds. They offered a loan with interest. Aunt Eileen wired $300 from her savings, no questions asked. It bought groceries and bus fare. Logan proposed the idea over late-night pizza in the dorm lounge. "We're both drowning in med supply data from that warehouse," he said, wiping sauce from his chin. "Hospitals lose track of inventory during surges. What if we build software to predict shortages?" He sketched flowcharts on napkins, machine learning models trained on shipment logs. I stared at the diagrams. My ankle throbbed in the boot, but the numbers clicked. We had access to public datasets from the CDC, plus anonymized records I'd copied before getting canned. Drew, a senior in bioinformatics, joined after overhearing us in the computer lab. He brought expertise in neural networks, a quiet intensity that balanced Logan's energy. We coded in the engineering building's basement fluorescent hum, replaced by server fans we'd salvaged from surplus sales. The prototype ran on my old laptop, now networked with Logan's desktop and Drew's gaming rig. It scraped order histories, flagged low stock on critical items like PPE. Accuracy hit 85% on test data. Investor demos started, small pitches to professors, then local health startups. We incorporated as BioPredict AI, filed for a patent on the algorithm. A seed round came from an angel who'd lost a cousin to supply delays during an outbreak. The check cleared 6 figures. We rented a cramped office above a vape shop, whiteboards covering every wall. Logan handled ops. Drew refined models, I led development. Crutches gave way to a walking boot, then sneakers. The fracture healed, crooked but strong. We launched the beta with 3 hospital partners' dashboards alerting procurement teams in real time. Revenue trickled in from subscriptions. Mom called once, collect from Kansas City. Travis signed a minor league deal, she announced, voice tinny. "You should congratulate him." I let it ring to voicemail. Aunt Eileen texted congratulations on the launch, added a coffee emoji. The platform scaled fast. We hired 2 interns, upgraded servers to the cloud. BioPredict AI became the backbone for regional health networks, predicting surges before they hit the news. My name appeared on the cap table, equity that grew with every contract. Logan high-fived me after the first big renewal. From warehouse floor to this, he laughed, gesturing at the office chaos. Drew just nodded, already typing the next update. The accident faded to a scar under my sock, a reminder that falling sometimes points the way up. An email from TechCrunch landed in my inbox on a Tuesday morning subject line screaming, 30, under 30, you made the list. I clicked from my office desk, coffee cooling beside the keyboard. The article profiled BioPredict AI as the tool saving hospitals millions in wasted inventory. My photo, taken at a conference blazer over jeans, sat next to Logan and Drew. The writer called us the trio turning data into lives saved. The recognition exploded. LinkedIn notifications pinged non-stop, investors slid into DMs, conference invites stacked up. We flew to San Francisco for the awards gala, rented tuxes and a gown from a boutique on Fillmore. On stage, the host read our bio while spotlights swept the crowd. I gripped the glass trophy, thanked the team, and kept it short. Cameras flashed. Someone shouted about acquisition rumors. Back in Charlotte, the platform handled real crises. When a hurricane knocked out power grids in the Carolinas, our system rerouted drug shipments from unaffected warehouses, preventing shortages in ICUs. Hospital admins sent thank you emails with patient stories, grandmothers getting chemo on time, kids receiving insulin without delay. Revenue hit 7 figures from enterprise licenses. A big pharma giant approached 6 months later. Their VP flew in on a private jet, toured our office, ran numbers on a whiteboard. The offer came over steak at a rooftop restaurant, 8-figure buyout, stock options, retention bonuses. Logan negotiated hard for employee equity. Drew crunched valuation models until 3 a.m. I signed the term sheet at dawn, pen steady. The deal closed in a conference room downtown, lawyers shuffling papers thicker than textbooks. Wire transfers hit our accounts the same week. I paid off student loans that never existed, wired Aunt Eileen enough for a new car. She replied with a photo of the dealership lot, caption, "No more Honda leaks." I house hunted on weekends, driving past cookie-cutter suburbs until Lake Norman appeared, blue water glinting under pine trees. The realtor showed a modern villa on a quiet cove, floor-to-ceiling windows, dock jutting into the lake, kitchen big enough for a restaurant. I walked the empty great room, heels echoing on hardwood, and pictured gatherings without scoreboards. Closing took 30 days. I moved in with boxes labeled in Sharpie, the laptop that started it all on the counter. The dining area got a custom table, solid oak, 10 feet long, seats for 10. No high chair, no assigned spots. I sanded the surface myself, one weekend stain, smelling sharp in the open air. Logan helped carry the benches, sweat dripping as we leveled the legs. "This is the upgrade," he said, slapping the wood. Drew arrived later with housewarming beer, set up a smart hub that controlled lights and music from an app. We christened the table with takeout barbecue sauce staining the grain, laughter bouncing off vaulted ceilings. The acquisition team kept us on as consultants. I flew to board meetings in New York, presented quarterly forecasts, watched the platform integrate into national networks. Press releases announced BioPredict powering 80% of Southeast hospitals. My equity vested in chunks enough to fund side projects without begging VCs. Neighbors trickled over for lake parties. Raphael, the single dad next door, brought his daughter and a cooler of sodas. We grilled steaks on the dock, kids jumping off into summer water. Dr. Khan, my old algorithms professor, drove down for a weekend retreat, marveled at the view from the deck. "You built more than code," he said, clinking glasses. "I hosted coding boot camps in the basement media room, projector, beaming tutorials on the wall. Local teens learned Python over pizza, eyes wide at the server rack humming in the corner. One kid fixed a bug in our open-source repo, his pull request merged live. I framed the commit message above the fireplace. The table saw its first Thanksgiving without family drama. Logan carved the turkey, Drew mixed cocktails with too much lime. Raphael's daughter set the place's napkins folded into swans. We ate until stuffed dishes piled in the sink lake, lapping outside the windows. No one checked scores or scouting reports. Acquisition perks included a company car. I picked a hybrid SUV, parked it in the 3-car garage. Mornings started with coffee on the dock, laptop open to market dashboards. The buyout money sat in index funds growing quietly. I donated matching amounts to STEM scholarships at UNC Charlotte Anonymous at first. TechCrunch followed up with a "Where are they now" piece. The photographer shot me at the table, sunlight streaming through glass. The article quoted me. "Success isn't a trophy. It's space for the people who choose you." Shares skyrocketed. My net worth crossed commas I never imagined. The villa became headquarters for chosen traditions. Sunday brunches with mimosas, game nights where Drew always won at cards. Raphael taught us to fish off the dock catch and release photos only. Dr. Khan brought guest lecturers, debates raging until midnight. The table held at all spills, arguments, toasts. I walked the property at dusk one evening, water still as glass. The oak table visible through the windows, empty but waiting. 900 miles from Kansas City. Zero regrets. The buyout funded freedom. The lake house built the family I designed. 6 years later, an invitation to Mom's 60th birthday arrived in the mail, heavy cardstock with gold foil lettering. The envelope listed my old Kansas City address, crossed out new one, printed in neat label. I turned it over twice, thumb tracing the return sticker. Curiosity 1. I booked a nonstop flight, packed light, and landed Friday evening. The rental car smelled like pine freshener. I drove the familiar route past the high school fields where Travis once practiced, the diner where I'd wipe tables. The red brick house looked smaller, paint peeling at the corners, driveway cracked deeper. Balloons bobbed from the mailbox, music thumping from the backyard. I parked down the block, walked up in jeans and a blazer. Guests milled on the patio, neighbors, old coaches, relatives I barely recognized. Dad spotted me first, near the grill, spatula in hand. "Avery," he said, voice flat. He hugged quick, smelled like charcoal. Mom appeared in the doorway, apron over her dress, eyes narrowing. "You came," she stated, wiping hands on a towel. No smile. Travis lumbered over beer gut, straining his shirt, handshake limp. "Hey sis, heard you're some tech hotshot now." He clapped my shoulder too hard. The party swirled, cake cutting, speeches about Mom's community service. I stood at the edge, sipping water. Mom raised her glass from the steps. "To family," she toasted. Then, gaze locking on me. "Some kids you wish you didn't have to see every day, but blood keeps you stuck." Laughter erupted. Travis snorted. Dad stared at the grass. The words hit like deja vu, sharper this time. I set my cup down, walked straight to her. "Your wish came true years ago. I live in Charlotte permanently." Mom's face reddened. "Don't make a scene at my party." "No scene," I replied. "Just facts." I turned, threaded through the crowd. Someone whispered. Travis called after me about respect. I kept walking, keys already in hand. The drive to the airport, blurred highway lights, streaking, radio off. I boarded the red-eye, seatbelt clicked before takeoff. Phone buzzed as wheels lifted. Mom's number. "Call me, we need to talk." I blocked it midair, screen going dark. Back in Charlotte by dawn, I deleted the contact, cleared the thread. No more notifications from that area code. The villa waited, quiet lake shimmering outside the windows. I brewed coffee, sat on the dock, watched the sun climb. 6 years of silence confirmed. Dad emailed once, forwarded from an old account, "Your mother's upset." Travis lost his sponsorship. I archived it unread. Aunt Eileen texted a thumbs-up emoji, nothing else. The party faded like a bad dream. Work resumed, Monday board calls, product roadmaps. Colleagues asked about the trip. I shrugged. Family obligation. Done. No details. The fracture from long ago ached in cold weather. This felt cleaner. I changed my emergency contact to Logan, updated beneficiary forms. Legal, zoom the documents, no questions. The past stayed in Kansas City, buried under balloon strings and cake crumbs. One evening, Raphael grilled fish next door. He waved me over. "You okay?" he asked, flipping fillets. I nodded, accepted a plate. We ate on his patio, kids chasing fireflies. Simple. Chosen. The blocked number tried from a new line weeks later. Travis. Voicemail, slurred apologies, money needed for lawyer fees. I deleted without listening, emptied trash. Permanent. Mom's birthday photos surfaced on a cousin's social smiles, no mention of the walkout. I scrolled past, unfollowed the feed. Distance wasn't miles anymore, it was settings. I flew business class to conferences, spoke on panels about AI ethics. Reporters asked about origins. I mentioned the scholarship, skipped the rest. The story stayed mine to shape. Aunt Eileen visited once, drove the lake loop in her new sedan. Proud doesn't cover it, she said over dinner. We toasted with sparkling water. She left with leftovers, no backward glance. The invitation went into a drawer, then the shredder. Paper confetti for a garden bed. Roots in new soil. Kansas City became a dot on weather apps, checked for flights, nothing more. Charlotte's humidity wrapped familiar, now mornings, crisp off the water. I ran the dock path at sunrise, earbuds in playlist loud. 1 year marker, no cards, no calls. Silence golden. I hosted a team retreat at the villa, strategy sessions around the oak table, whiteboards on easels. Drew sketched roadmaps, Logan ordered catering. Productive, peaceful. The Laploe cue echoed only in memory, faded like old code. I overwrote it line by line, new commits, clean builds. Charlotte Vin Vian. Final. Christmas that year opened, the villa doors wide, string lights twinkling along the dock, pine scent drifting from the tree in the great room. I'd sent invitations weeks earlier, simple cards with lake coordinates. Guests arrived with covered dishes and wrapped gifts, tires crunching on the gravel drive. Aunt Eileen pulled in, first trunk loaded with bakery boxes from her favorite Charlotte shop. She hugged me at the threshold, coat dusted with light snow from the mountains. Drew followed in his electric sedan, carrying a crate of craft beer. Raphael and his daughter bounded up the steps, arms full of homemade tamales. Dr. Khan arrived last, scarf knotted neat, bearing a tin of spiced nuts. We gathered around the oak table, 10 seats filled exactly. Candles flickered in glass holders, plates piled high with turkey stuffing and Eileen's famous pecan pie. Laughter rose over clinking silverware. Raphael's daughter passed the gravy. Drew poured, refills. Dr. Khan shared stories from campus breakthroughs. No agendas, no scorekeeping. My phone vibrated mid-meal, unknown number, Kansas City area code. I silenced it, but it rang again. I stepped to the kitchen, answered low. Mom's voice crackled through. Travis lost everything. Sponsorships gone, house foreclosed, lawsuits piling up. He needs help. I glanced at the table, Eileen slicing pie, Drew snapping photos, Raphael teaching the kid a card trick. Tell him to call a lawyer, I said. He's family, Mom pressed. You have money now. This table has no room for anyone who pushed me out. I ended the call, blocked the number, powered off the phone, returned to my seat. Drew raised an eyebrow. I shook my head once. Conversation flowed on. Dessert shifted to announcements. I stood, glass in hand. One more thing. I explained the Avery Lane Foundation seed money from acquisition residuals, focused on full-ride scholarships for low-income STEM students facing family resistance. Applications opened January, mentorship built in. Dr. Khan offered to chair the board. Eileen wiped a tear, nodded firm. We toasted, the fund glasses chiming. Raphael's daughter asked if she could apply someday. Absolutely, I replied. The table erupted in plans, fundraisers, coding camps, alumni networks. Energy buzzed like startup days. Later, we bundled up for dock fireworks. Small show, I'd hired, bursts reflecting on the water. Kids, ooh-ed adults, snapped pics. Dr. Khan pulled me aside. This is legacy, he said quietly. I smiled, watched colors explode overhead. Cleanup was communal, Drew on dishes, Raphael wrapping leftovers, Eileen labeling containers. The tree lights glowed soft as the last guest left. I locked the door, stood alone in the quiet. Table cleared, chairs pushed in, lake lapping outside. The foundation launched publicly in spring. Press release hit, local news applications flooded in. First recipient, a girl from rural Missouri. Parents wanted her married at 18. She coded her way out just like I did. I met her at orientation, handed the check personally. Mom tried once more, letter forwarded from an old address pleading for Travis's rehab costs. I marked return to sender, dropped in the mailbox. No reply needed. Aunt Eileen moved closer, bought a condo 10 minutes away. Sunday dinners became routine, her recipes my grill. Drew and Raphael joined often, kids growing fast. Dr. Khan retired, consulted for the fund pro bono. The table hosted milestones, grant awards, birthdays, quiet Tuesdays with takeout. Seats rotated, but the core stayed. No empty spots for guilt. Years on the foundation funded dozens. Graduates sent updates, patents filed, companies started. I framed their emails above the fireplace next to the TechCrunch trophy. One quiet Christmas Eve, I sat alone at the table, coffee steaming. Phone silent, lake frozen at the edges. Family wasn't blood. It was the people who showed up, stayed, chose back. I'd built that. Complete cut from the old roots, deep in the new. The lesson crystallized. Real family is the table you set, the doors you open, the hands you hold without obligation. Charlotte forever. Chosen.